vampires, creepy age gaps, racism. What do all of these three things have in common? What all these three subjects have in common is that they're ever present in the infamous book/movie series known as the Twilight Saga. So semi-recently, I posted this TikTok right here and it went semi-viral. Because of the fact that it went semi-viral, I discovered a lot of things about the Twilight series. I discovered that Stephenie Meyer is a blatant racist, as well as her history and her problematic past. I discovered that the Twilight series wasn't the cutesy little teen romance series that I fell in love with as a kid. So in this video, I'm gonna dissect and unpack why the Twilight series as well as Stephenie Meyer is so problematic. And if you're interested, keep on watching. Hi guys, welcome back to Ella Pastoral. And this is actually a part of my Ella Enchanted series where I'm gonna be talking about all of my favorite horror movies as well as my favorite horror topics such as vampires. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell notifications. But let's hop back into the video. But before we do that, let me give you guys some background on the Twilight series. So Twilight is a 2008 American romantic fantasy film based on Stephenie Meyer's 2005 novel of the same name. Directed by Catherine Hardwicke, the film stars Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, and it is the first film in the Twilight Saga series. This film focuses on the development of the relationship between Bella Swan, a teenage girl, and Edward Cullen, a vampire, and the subsequent efforts of Edward and his family to keep Bella safe from a coven of evil vampires. Twilight was released in theaters on November 21st, 2008, where it grossed over $407 million worldwide. Despite receiving mixed reviews from critics, it was released on DVD March 21st, 2009, and became the most purchased DVD of the year. Following the film's success, New Moon and Eclipse, the next two novels in the series, were produced as films the following years. I'm a girl who is in love with monsters, vampires, all that. I even recently did a video discussing hyperfemininity as seen in Monster High, Winx Club, all of that. And so I love monsters, I love vampires, I love everything to do with mystical creatures. So with that background in mind, you would expect that I obviously would love Twilight. My friends and I decided that we were going to binge watch the entire Twilight series. And while we were watching it, we realized that the town of Forks, where the movie Twilight is based in, is giving very much sundown town because there's barely any minorities. And the minorities we see don't play a major role in the movie. That's why I even made that TikTok in the first place, because I wanted to have a Discord about where were all of the people of color in this town and how the only representation that we got in this movie was with Laurent, and Laurent played a villain. And so now that we know the background behind the Twilight series, we can really talk about the TikTok drama that happened when I posted that TikTok. So while I was watching Twilight with my friends, I really realized how white this movie was. While me and my friends were watching this movie, we realized that the only black character that got any speaking roles was the villain. So we were so shocked. There was no Asian characters that really were important in the series. It was just a white movie, and I didn't realize this growing up. That's why I made the TikTok saying that it would have been nice if we would have got more black vampires, more black representation, and my comment section was in shambles. And so my comment section was literally in shambles, all because I said that we deserve to have better black representation and we deserve to have black vampires. So I'm just showing you guys really quickly what that whole situation in my comment section looked like. And even though it's been like 6 months since I posted that TikTok, I finally am ready to dissect what was going on in my comment section, call out all of the people that were being racist in my comment section, and have an open dialogue about why we deserve better representation. So the first comment that I kept seeing all over my comment section was the fact that many people were saying that black people shouldn't be trying to force their way into media. This is actually really crazy because black people aren't trying to force themselves into media. We just have a right as consumers to critique the things that we watch and point out racism when we see it. And what really gets me is that whenever black people are having this discussion about how media refuses to represent us and how we're advocating for better representation, you guys want to shut down the argument by saying black people shouldn't force ourselves into media. How? What are you even saying? Like, what does that even mean? And what really gets me is that whenever Black people have an honest and valid critique about the media that we're actively consuming, y'all would like to deflect and shut us down by saying that. We as consumers have the right to critique any piece of media that we watch. Like, do you guys tell that to film critics when they say that about whatever new film comes out? Like, I'm begging y'all to be for real. A major positive that came from this whole entire discourse was that first, I built a very good community of fellow Black people who love fantasy and mythical creatures. And secondly, I got a bunch of different Black people to go support Black authors. For example, I have been recently reading this book right here, and this is made by a Black author, and it really does a good job at showing Black people their interests as well as having, you know, a mystical element in terms of zombies. So by posting this TikTok, I got more Black people to support Black authors, as well as me getting good vampire representation by being recommended The Queen of the Damned as well as Blade. So if you want to support Black vampires and you want to support Black people, I recommend checking out this movie right here, this movie right here, as well as this book series as well. Another major point that I wanted to make while discussing how problematic Twilight was for having little to no Black representation is the fact that the only Black representation that we got was with Laurent being a villain. And the reason why we're so mad about this is because instead of Stephenie Meyer just saying that there's no Black vampires, she went through hoops to try to justify why Black people can't be vampires. First of all, the Twilight series / book series is based in the United States of America. I don't know about y'all, but if you live in America, you know that there's Black people. I did some research on this, and Black people make up a good percentage of the United States population, almost 30%. So tell me why this movie is literally set in the United States and we literally see like one Black person in the entire movie. And this is even worse when you realize that this book series is set in the 21st century. There is literally no reason why there isn't any more Black people in the town of Forks, unless that Stephenie Meyer specifically wanted it to be a sundown town. I'm gonna insert a picture for you guys to see, but in the original concept art for the house that the Cullens live in, Stephenie Meyer wanted the house to look like a plantation house.
Since I bought the Twilight Illustrated guide, this has been my burden to bear, and now it is yours. The Cullens lived on a plantation. There's no doubt that that's a plantation house. We need to start examining Stephenie Meyer the same way we examine J.K. Rowling, because her biases are also very prevalent in all her books.
So I'm not pulling this out of nowhere when I say that this woman is actually racist, because first, there's no Black people in the town of Forks. So now I'm thinking that this town is a sundown town, and the house that you wanted the Cullens to live in is a plantation house. I'm begging y'all, be for real. And I'm not even saying that Black people have to be in every piece of media, but if you're gonna have a book series / movie / whatever based in the 21st century and specifically in the United States, there has to be Black people. Like, we are a very racially diverse country, so the fact that there's only white people in this town is giving racism. And I'm not even saying that there has to be Black representation in every piece of media. There's a bunch of shows that have little to no Black people that I love, such as Outlander, but this show is based in like ye old Scotland, so obviously there's not going to be any Black people. But for Twilight, the movies and the books to be set in the United States in the 21st century and there's no Black people just shows that Stephenie Meyer is racist. And what really gets me is that Stephenie Meyer is writing a 21st century book, and she knows about all the racial injustice that is going on in America towards Black people. And by making the only Black person who has speaking lines in her movie the villain, it continues to perpetuate the stereotype that Black people are evil and they do harm and that they're evil in real life, which is not the case. Another comment that I kept seeing in my comment section that was just making me mad was people saying that it's Stephenie Meyer's own piece of art, so she can do whatever she wants with it. Duh, guys. Duh. But at the same time, if you're gonna make any type of art and put it out into the world for us to see, we as the audience are going to have a right to critique it. Like, I don't understand why people are saying that. Like, I want you to make sense. If someone releases a movie, do you think they're not going to get any reviews? If anyone engages / interacts with that piece of media, they're obviously going to have something to say about it. You guys only want to say that when it comes to Black people trying to advocate for ourselves. Because are you the same people who are going to go on, like, let's say Rotten Tomatoes and be like, you can't say that the movie was bad because she made it? Are you also going to be on the YouTube comments saying you can't say that you didn't like the movie because she made the movie and it's her right to make the movie? I feel like you guys aren't making sense, and you know that you're not making sense. Like, art is specifically there to be engaged with and interacted with. Not everyone is going to have a positive outlook on a piece of media just because someone worked hard on it, and I want y'all to be for real. People's whole entire jobs is to critique media. Food critics, media critics, film reviewers. You guys just hate black people. Just say that. Just say that. And that argument literally doesn't make sense when my TikTok literally stopped people from buying Stephenie Meyers' terrible work, supporting Stephenie Meyers, as well as getting more black people more views by recommending them black books, black movies, black TV shows. I want y'all to be serious, but I really want you guys to fully understand why I don't like Stephenie Meyers and why I keep calling her racist. So now that we have that brief background on Twilight as a series, as well as the TikTok nonsense that was going on, we really need to talk about the woman behind the screen, and we need to talk about why I am calling Stephenie Meyer a racist. So when I was a kid, I obviously didn't know who Stephenie Meyer was. I didn't know anything about her, but now that I'm a grown woman and I have Google, to support me, I was able to do my own research and figure out why people kept calling Stephenie Meyers racist in my comment section. So the main argument that people kept saying was that Stephenie Meyer is Mormon, so obviously they weren't surprised at her racist subtext in Twilight. And this was really surprising to me because personally, before I did my own research, I thought that the Mormon church was literally just an offset of the Amish people, and I don't really associate Amish people or Mormons with racism until I did my own research. So it was news to me when I found out that the Mormon church believes that black people are cursed in this life and that they have to do good deeds in order for them to ascend into the next life. And in the next life, if they, did good deeds in this life, they'll be white. So that's why in the Twilight series, from the books to the movies, whiteness is always pushed so hard on us. Like, oh, he's sparkling white, his skin is like porcelain, Bella is pale white, and that's why people keep finding her beautiful, because Bella is so pale. Like, I want y'all to really think about how icky this is. So that's exactly why Stephenie Meyer sees vampirism and whiteness as things to achieve to. The way that Bella was really ready to put her life on the line just to become a vampire is very indicative of how Stephenie Meyers was trying to put her religion into the Twilight in that heavy subtext. And people kept saying in my comments, and Stephenie Meyer herself even said, that the reason why there's no black vampires is that the vampire venom, when it enters your bloodstream, it bleaches your skin and makes it impermeably strong. Okay, let me break this down for y'all on a scientific level. I'm actually taking, classes on compounds and mechanical structures, all of that. So let me break this down for y'all. Melanin is one of the strongest chemicals that we have in our skin. Melanin protects us from UV radiation and also prevents us from getting skin cancer. Let me break this down for you guys on a scientific level, okay? Melanin is one of the strongest components of our skin. Melanin literally prevents us from getting skin cancer and UV radiation. So that in of itself doesn't make any sense. The vampire venom bleaching the skin and making it impermeable when melanin is the thing that helps our skin be strong doesn't make any sense. But let's pretend that it made sense and let's use Stephenie Meyer's logic. You're saying that there can't be any black vampires because vampire venom bleaches skin? Then why aren't there any albino vampires? Skin color isn't the only thing that makes you black. Like, if right now I lost all of my melanin, I still have black features. My nose, my facial structure, my lips, my 4C hair. Like this, I'm doing a little something special, but if you saw me how I look like, I still look black. If you were to take away my melanin, you can still tell that I'm black. So Stephenie Meyer literally was doing mental gymnastics to try to justify why there wasn't any black vampires in her series. And let's actually be for real, guys. Let's actually be for real. Vampire venom infects somebody like a disease would. I don't understand why you guys are trying to justify something that literally doesn't make any sense. You're telling me if a vampire right now were to bite me, the vampire venom is gonna look in my DNA, say that she's black, and be like, time out. People were literally justifying this nonsense in my comments, and I was like, you guys actually can't be for real. Because there's no way that you think vampirism is literally a disease. Like, for example, like Everybody just knows that. Like, if you were to get bitten by a vampire, no matter if you're black, white, Asian, the vampire infection is going to infect you regardless, because that's how diseases work. People were doing so many mental gymnastics just to justify racism. It was low-key terrifying me. When I tell you, I was actively losing brain cells when people were in my comments trying to justify this nonsense. And before y'all say, oh, but there is black representation, there's Laurent. Did you know Laurent was actually white in the books? Guys, Laurent was actually a white man in the books. The only reason why Stephenie Meyers was okay with Laurent being black is because he was a villain. Like, this woman does not like black people. But let me actually show you guys more proof of how Stephenie Meyers is racist. So according to the article, Twilight author Stephenie Meyer branded as racist by Twitter in wake of a new book reveal by Michael Heen. He says, many revisited a 2018 interview with director Catherine Hardwicke, who shot the first movie. Hardwicke told the Daily Beast that one of the main points of contention between herself and Meyer was that I, as in the director, wanted a lot of the cast to be more diverse. Hardwicke noted that Meyer had not written it that way, so she probably didn't see the world that way. And I was like, oh my god, I want the vampires. I want them all. Alice, I want her to be Japanese. I had all these ideas, and she just could not accept the Cullens to be more diverse because she really seen them in her mind, and she knew each character was representing in a way a personal friend, relative, or something like that. She said, I wrote that they all had this pale, glistening skin. Okay, let's keep reading. Hardwicke said that Meyer eventually came to the idea of the Kenyan-American actor Edi Gatigay playing the character Laurent, but she thought it was because he was one of the antagonistic vampires. For this reason, some critics have picked up on the idea that Meyer would have only agreed to cast a non-white actor if they played a villain. So I'm not BSing when I say that this lady is racist. And now that I know all of this background about Stephenie Meyers, the fact that she's Mormon, the fact that Mormons don't see black people as people, and they literally think that we have to slave in this life in order to become white in the next life, and how she fought so hard against having any people of color in the Cullen family, I'm looking at everyone sideways. And the fact that Stephenie Meyers said that all of the people in the Cullen family, she saw them as a relative or a friend, also has me looking at her sideways. Because if you guys don't remember Jasper, I'm gonna put a picture of Jasper on the screen. He is a Confederate soldier, and he doesn't even have an arc where he's like, yeah, I'm so sad that I actually fought for the Confederacy. I should have known better. He is a proud Confederate soldier and even uses some of his proud Confederate soldier moments to help the Cullens. And the fact that she's saying that all of the Cullens represent her friends or her family in one way or another, I'm like, oh, so she also support Confederacy, which also meant that she supports slavery. Like, when you think about this deeply, I'm like, oh, this lady is a bigot, because I also had to think about this logically about the character of Carlisle, because Carlisle used to be one of my favorite characters. Carlisle literally travels around the United States picking up lost souls. I think he found Rosalie after she was, gang attacked by a group of men. Carlisle also found Edward after he was suffering from the Spanish flu. So you mean to tell me this man is traveling around the United States? This United States with its problematic history of the Japanese internment camp, slavery. Don't forget, we as a country are actively putting children in cages right now. He's traveling around the United States, picking up all these lost souls, and he does not even stop to help not one person of color. Did you really know the background on Stephenie Meyers and how she sees black people? And even other people of color, because I forgot to mention that the way that she portrayed Native Americans in her books and her movie series was really problematic. You really have to realize that everybody in the book is a racist by proxy. Because I said, Carlisle, you're traveling around the United States and you didn't want to help any people of color? Okay. This book series ain't it. It really ain't. So now that I really dissected Twilight for its racism and its problematic author, I want to talk about the bad writing. I don't know why little me was eating this up when I was a kid, but the Twilight books as well as the Twilight series are so poorly written, and I want to talk about it. When I was doing my research, I found out that the Twilight book series was actually a bad fanfic from this band right here. So I was like, if Stephenie Meyer can write a bad fan fiction about this band right here, why can't I take the Twilight series and add my own flavor and spin to it? Obviously, I'm not a fan fiction writer, but I just wanted to throw out some ideas of what I would have done if I wasn't a racist bigot writing the Twilight series. So in my version of Twilight, I obviously am coming from the vantage point of the fact that I'm not a bigot. So I want this Twilight reimagining to be an interracial romance. I know I'm gonna have the girls really mad with this, but I want Bella to be half black, half white, with Charlie, her dad, still being white. But I want her mother to be a dark-skinned black woman, just to make the people mad, with a weird affinity for plants and holistic healing practices. And so in this version, my Bella, her name is actually Belladonna, because first of all, Belladonna is a way better name than Isabella. And I also want her to have a tie to her mom's weird infatuation with plants. And so the catalyst of our story is that Bella is turning 20, because I didn't want a high school romance, because high school romances are really weird to me, especially when the older dude, they're old. Like, Edward is like a 200-year-old vampire in high school talking to this high schooler. I didn't like that. It's giving weird. So in my story, Bella is of age and she's just heading into college. And the reason why she took a long time to get into college is because she's terminally ill. Like, she has chronic health conditions. And that's why in my story, Bella is so infatuated with becoming a vampire, because she has had so many close encounters with death, and she knows that by becoming a vampire, she wouldn't have to, deal with that. I like that idea way better than Stephenie Meyer's version of Bella, where she wants to be a vampire because she's afraid of getting old, when sis is a teenager in high school. The whole time when Bella was like, I don't want to be old, I don't want to be old, I said, girl, you're not even legally allowed to drink yet and you're frantic about becoming old. So that's why I wanted my version of Bella to actually make sense. So I wanted to still keep the idea where Forest is a small town and Bella has to go all the way to travel to live back with her dad because her parents are divorced. I like that idea, but I also want to really touch on the fact that her town is a small town, so Bella is still a fish out of water like she was in the Stephenie Meyer's version. And I also really wanted to get rid of the creepy high school elements that were in the original Twilight series, because whenever I was watching Twilight, I said, you guys are really weird for wanting to relive the worst years of anyone's life. High school is not it. So I wanted all of the Cullens to attend college. That way it made more sense. And I really wanted the Cullens to attend college because I never understood why these grown folks was in high school with these teenagers. Me, I'm about to be 21 this October. So the fact that I'm seeing you guys who are like 200, 300 years old messing with high schoolers, I don't know how they did it, because I don't know why they was messing around with the kids like that. Like, why were they in high school? Because personally for me, if I had immortality, I would never of my free volition choose high school. I never understood why they chose high school as the place that they will continually be in. Like, all those high school diplomas on that wall was disgusting. I also wanted to be more inclusive of the Cullen family because I didn't want Carlisle to give racist vibes by only adopting troubled white kids. So all of the members of the Cullen family are adopted people of color, and I really wanted Alice to be Asian, like how that director wanted her to be. Because I don't know, like in my head, I always imagined Alice to be Asian. And so I still wanted to keep the aspect of Jacob being Bella's best friend. I also wanted them to be the same age, because I never liked in the Twilight movies how Bella always had this weird age gap thing going on between her love interest. Like, Jacob was always like 2 years younger than her, and he would always like, follow after her like a baby. That was always so weird to me. And I also want Bella and Jacob to be closer because they're the few minorities in the town. Like, I always thought that would be interesting. Like, the reason why, Jacob clings so tightly to Bella, even though he knows for a fact that Bella's not his mate, is the fact that they've kind of trauma bonded by living in this mostly white town. Because in the original series, I never understood why Jacob was so pressed about Bella, because Bella treated him like, he was trash. trash, never cared about him, used him, and that girl was not his mate. So in this series, the reason why Jacob is actually in love with Bella is because like they're actual childhood friends and they've trauma bonded by being the only minorities in their small town. So now we're at the point of the video where I really want to give you guys good movies / shows / books that you can read instead of the Twilight series. So if you're desperate like me and you want to have a mystical creature / vampire fix, the first book that I have for you guys is the book series known as Crave by Tracy Wolf. So I really like this series because it has a bunch of different magical creatures, but it mainly stars like a love triangle between these two really attractive hot vampire brothers. And I love this book series because their romance is really good. It makes you really feel like, damn, like who am I supposed to root for, as well as it not having a creepy age gap. These vampires are the same age as the main character, so you don't have to be like, oh, I should call the police on, both of the main love interests. And I also really loved that there were Asian characters, Black characters, and they weren't, racialized either. Like none of these characters that were people of color were like racist stereotypes. And unlike Stephenie Meyer, the Crave series had Black people. The Crave series is what Twilight should have been. So if you want a series that is actually going to be good and non-problematic, I recommend the Crave series. Another recommendation that I have for you guys is the movie Blade. I talked about it previously, but I really want to like dive deep into it here. And at first I was really skeptical about this movie because it was made in the 90s and I really don't like watching older movies, but this movie really holds up and everything about this movie is good. The acting was good, the vampirism was good as well, and they're also about to reboot this movie into the MCU, so that's something to definitely look out for. And Blade was overall a 10 out of 10 watch if you love vampires, and especially if you love Black vampires like I do. And for my very last recommendation I have for you guys is this TV show called First Kill on Netflix. It's about these two sapphic vampires who fall in love with each other, and it's really good. It's on Netflix, and even if you don't have it on Netflix, you can find it on other websites. And sadly Netflix canceled this, but it's still really good Black vampire representation if you want something to watch. So overall, Black people and people of color deserve to see ourselves represented in the media that we consume. We need more Black vampires, Black fairies, Black werewolves. We deserve to see ourselves in these pieces of media. We should also actively support BIPOC creators because they are the ones that are actually giving us the representation that we need. And we as people of color also have the right to critique any piece of media that we want to. Like, we're people as well, and we also have the right to have opinions. If you guys like this video, make sure that you support me by hitting the thumbs up button and make sure that you guys subscribe. As you guys can see, this video is a part of my Ella Enchanted series where I'm talking about all of my favorite scary movies, as well as talking about like horror concepts such as vampires like I did in this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!